It was a cold evening in the city. The streets were crowded, lights were bright, and people were laughing. But for Maya, nothing was bright. Her stomach was empty, her hands were cold, and her clothes were old and torn. She walked slowly, holding a small brown bag that looked even older than her. Inside it there was only one thing, an old photo of her mother. The sound of cars and people filled the air, but Maya didn't care. Her only thought was food. She had not eaten since morning. Every shop she passed smelled of bread or soup, but no one looked at her. To them she was invisible. Then something caught her attention. From across the street she heard music, beautiful rich piano music. It came from a big building covered with golden lights. She looked up at the name, Grand City Hotel. Inside she could see people dancing, eating, and smiling. Her eyes went to the stage near the window. There it was, a grand piano shining black and beautiful. Maya stopped walking. She couldn't take her eyes off it. For a moment she forgot her hunger. The piano reminded her of her old home. Her mother used to play a small one before everything changed. Maya remembered sitting beside her, watching her fingers move like magic. Her mother used to say softly, "Music will always stay with you, Maya. Even when life gets hard, close your eyes and play." That voice still lived in her heart. Maya took a step closer to the hotel door. The guard standing there frowned at her. "Hey, you can't come in here," he said sharply. She looked up. "Please, sir," she whispered. "I'm hungry. Can I play for food?" The guard laughed. "Play? You? Do you even know what this place is?" "I just need one chance," she said softly. The man shook his head. "Go away, girl. You'll scare the guests." Before she could speak again, the door opened from inside. A group of rich people came out, laughing loudly. Behind them walked an old man in a black suit, his white hair shining under the golden light. Everyone was clapping for him. He had just finished performing inside. He was Mr. Howard, a famous piano player known for his proud smile and cold heart. "What's going on here?" Mr. Howard asked, seeing the little girl. The guard smirked. "This street kid says she wants to play your piano for food." The crowd laughed. One woman said, "That's adorable. Maybe she wants to clean the piano, not play it." Maya stayed quiet, looking down. Her small hands tightened on her bag. Mr. Howard chuckled. "You think you can play like me?" She looked up slowly. Her eyes were full of quiet courage. "I don't want to play like you," she said. "I just want to play." The guests laughed again, but something about her voice made Mr. Howard pause. He looked at her for a moment, then said, "All right, let's see what you can do. But if you waste our time, you'll have to leave right away." Maya nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." They led her inside. The big hall was filled with people in shiny dresses and suits. The air smelled of perfume and food. Everyone's eyes turned toward the little girl with dirty clothes and messy hair. Some whispered, others laughed. "She looks like she's never seen a piano before," someone said. "This will be fun," another joked. Maya walked slowly to the stage. The piano looked even bigger up close. Her reflection showed in its glossy black surface. Small, thin, scared, but determined. She sat on the stool. Her legs barely reached the pedals. Her hands trembled. The room was full of laughter and whispers. Mr. Howard crossed his arms. "Go on then," he said, smiling proudly. Maya took a deep breath. She closed her eyes. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. "Music will always stay with you." Her fingers touched the cold keys. For a second, nothing happened. Then she pressed the first note. A soft, pure sound filled the air, then another, then another. Within moments, the music changed. It was slow and gentle, but full of emotion, full of pain, love, and hope. It sounded like the story of her life. The people stopped talking. Their laughter faded. Mr. Howard's smile disappeared. Maya's small fingers moved faster and faster, dancing across the keys like magic. Her eyes were still closed, but the music was alive, filling every corner of the room. Some guests gasped. One woman covered her mouth. The guard stood frozen. No one could believe it. The homeless girl was playing like a true artist, like someone born with music inside her soul. When the final note echoed through the hall, the silence was deep. Nobody clapped. Nobody spoke. Maya opened her eyes slowly and looked around. Everyone was staring at her. She didn't say anything. She just stood up, bowed slightly, and whispered, "Thank you." Then she turned to leave. But before she could step down from the stage, Mr. Howard said softly, "Wait." Maya stopped. Her heart beat faster. He looked at her with wide eyes, his voice quiet but serious. "Where did you learn to play like that?" Maya didn't answer. She just smiled sadly and said, "I didn't learn. I remembered." And with that line, she walked away into the night, leaving behind a room full of silence, shock, and questions. The same people who laughed at her now couldn't take their eyes off the door she had just walked through. No one knew it yet. But the girl they mocked was not an ordinary child. She was a hidden genius, and her story had just begun. The next morning, the city woke up to another busy day. Cars honking, people rushing, and music playing from cafes. But for Maya, everything felt the same. She was still hungry, still tired, and still alone. She sat on the edge of a fountain in the park, her small bag beside her. Inside it, the same old photo and her mother smiling. Maya touched it softly. "I played again last night, Mama," she whispered. "Just like you taught me," but her stomach growled. The memory of the food smell from the hotel made her eyes tear up. She wished someone had at least given her a piece of bread. As she looked down, a man in a black coat stopped near her. He had seen her at the hotel the night before. His name was Daniel, one of the waiters. He smiled kindly. "You're the little girl from last night, right? The one who played the piano?" Maya nodded quietly. He handed her a small sandwich. "Here, you must be hungry." She looked at it for a second and then took it slowly. "Thank you," she said. Daniel sat beside her. "You were amazing. Everyone was talking about you after you left. Even Mr. Howard looked shocked." Maya looked surprised. "They were?" "Yes," Daniel laughed. "But you know how rich people are. They don't like to admit when they're wrong." Maya smiled a little. "I didn't want to make anyone wrong. I just wanted to play." Daniel looked at her curiously. "Where did you learn?" "That music. It wasn't something a normal kid plays." Maya looked away. "My mother taught me. She used to play every night before she went away." Daniel's face softened. "I see. You really are special." Before Maya could answer, they both heard loud voices. Across the park, a group of people was gathered. Some of them were from the hotel, rich guests dressed in fancy coats. Mr. Howard was among them. Maya froze. "It's them," she whispered. Daniel frowned. "It's okay. Maybe they just want to talk." But as they came closer, Maya saw their faces. They weren't smiling kindly, they were mocking again. "There she is," one woman said loudly. "The little piano miracle." Mr. Howard laughed lightly. "Yes, the one who thought she could teach me how to play." Everyone laughed again. Maya stood up slowly, clutching her bag. "I didn't mean to—" she started, but they interrupted. "Oh, don't worry," one man said with a smirk. "We should thank you. You gave us the best laugh of the night." Maya looked down. Her heart hurt. Daniel stepped forward. "Hey, that's enough. She's just a kid." Mr. Howard turned to him sharply. "Stay out of this. She walked into my performance without an invitation. Do you think talent gives anyone the right to break the rules?" Maya whispered. "I only wanted to eat." For a second, there was silence. The crowd looked at her, and a few faces turned uneasy. But Mr. Howard just crossed his arms. "You played well, little girl. But music doesn't fill plates. It takes more than a few pretty notes to survive in this world." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "My mother said music can feed the soul," she said softly. Mr. Howard laughed coldly. "Then feed your soul, not your stomach." The group turned to leave, still laughing. Maya stood still, watching them walk away. Her heart felt heavy, but something inside her changed. She wiped her tears. Daniel looked at her, worried. "Don't listen to them. They don't understand." Maya shook her head. "No, they don't, but I'll make them understand one day." There was a fire in her eyes now, small but strong. That night, Maya returned to the same place outside the hotel. She sat on the street corner with a small cardboard box and wrote one line on it with a piece of chalk: "Music for a meal." People walked by, some ignoring her, some dropping coins. But when she began to play, everything changed. Her fingers danced over the piano keys like they had a mind of their own. The soft melody filled the cold air. Passers-by slowed down, then stopped. One by one, people gathered. A woman whispered, "Who is she?" A man said softly, "Listen. She plays like an angel." Even the busy traffic noise seemed to fade. And inside the hotel, through the golden windows, Mr. Howard stood again, watching her. His face had no smile now, only confusion. For the first time in years, someone's music made him feel something real, but his pride wouldn't let him admit it. He turned away quickly, yet her melody followed him, like a memory he couldn't escape. Outside, Maya kept playing, her eyes closed. The music flowed like her mother's voice, soft and warm. The night was cold, but her music made people stop, listen, and feel. And somewhere deep inside her, a small hope began to grow, maybe, just maybe. This was the start of something bigger, something that could change her life forever. The night had turned quiet. The city lights shimmered on the wet streets after a short rain. Maya sat near the same grand hotel, beside the piano that stood close to the open hall window. The crowd that had gathered earlier was gone now. Only a few coins lay in her box, not enough for a full meal. Still, she smiled. For the first time, people had stopped and listened. They had felt something. That was enough for her. She hugged her bag tightly and whispered, "Mama, I played again. You'd be proud." The wind blew softly, carrying the faint sound of music from the hotel inside. A soft melody, but not beautiful, not perfect. It was Mr. Howard practicing alone. Maya listened quietly. The notes were correct but empty. No feeling, no soul. She could almost hear the anger in each key. Inside, Mr. Howard stopped suddenly and sighed. He looked at the piano keys, his mind full of confusion. Ever since he heard the little girl play, his heart had been uneasy. Her music was still echoing in his head, simple yet full of something he hadn't felt in years. Emotion. He shook his head. "Nonsense," he muttered. "Just a lucky child." But deep down, he knew it wasn't luck. Outside, Maya started to hum softly. The tune was new, something she hadn't learned, something that came from her heart. Slowly, she placed her hands on the small street piano again and began to play. It was gentle at first. One note, then another, like raindrops falling on a quiet night. The sound floated through the streets. People passing by stopped again. Some stood quietly. Others recorded her on their phones. A young boy whispered to his mother, "She's the same girl from last night." His mother nodded. "Listen to her. She plays with feeling." Soon a small crowd formed again. Maya didn't notice them. Her eyes were closed and her face was calm. The melody told her story, and of hunger, pain, and hope. Each note was a word she couldn't speak. Each pause was a tear she never cried. Across the street, a tall man in a dark coat stopped walking. He listened carefully, frozen in place. There was something familiar in that music. He turned to look, and his eyes widened. He whispered to himself, "It can't be." He crossed the road slowly, coming closer. When Maya finished playing, she opened her eyes and smiled shyly at the people who clapped softly. She didn't expect much, just kindness. But then she noticed the tall man standing at the front of the crowd. He looked shocked, almost emotional. "What's your name, little one?" he asked. "Maya," she said softly. He looked down, his hands trembling. Do you know this song?" "Where did you learn it?" Maya looked confused. "It just came to me," she said. "It feels like something my mom used to play." The man's face turned pale. "Your mother, what was her name?" Maya hesitated. "Clara," she said. "Clara Evans." The man stepped back, his eyes full of tears. "Oh my God," he whispered. "I knew her. She was my sister," the crowd gasped. Maya stared, speechless. "Your sister?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, she disappeared years ago. We thought she and her little girl were gone forever." Maya's heart started to race. You're my uncle?" The man smiled, eyes wet. "Yes, Maya, I'm your Uncle Peter." The crowd around them whispered in surprise. Some people wiped tears. Peter knelt and hugged her tightly. "You look just like your mother. I can't believe you're here." Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. "I missed her. I play because she taught me." Peter looked at the old piano and then at the hotel. "Come with me. You don't have to live on the street anymore." But before they could move, Mr. Howard appeared at the door. He had been watching everything from inside. His face was unreadable. "So," he said slowly, walking closer, "this is the little girl who stole my audience." The crowd grew silent. Peter stood in front of Maya protectively. "She didn't steal anything. She shared her gift." Mr. Howard's eyes met Maya's. Gift? He said coldly. Music is not a gift, it's skill. And skill must be trained, tested, and earned. Maya looked down but said quietly, My music comes from the heart. Mr. Howard smiled bitterly. Then play for me again. If you think your heart is stronger than years of practice, prove it, the crowd murmured in excitement. Peter looked worried. Maya, you don't have to, but Maya nodded. I will. Mr. Howard gestured to the grand piano inside the hotel. The lights were bright again and people gathered around quickly, whispering and waiting. Maya walked in slowly, her bare feet echoing on the marble floor. She sat at the piano once more, the same one she played last night. Her small hands hovered over the keys. The same people who had laughed before now waited silently. Mr. Howard crossed his arms. Let's see if your heart can beat my hands, he said proudly. Maya took a deep breath. Her eyes closed. Her fingers touched the first key. The first note echoed through the hall, soft, pure, and full of emotion. Mr. Howard's smile faded instantly. The sound was familiar. Too familiar. It was the same melody his late wife used to love, a tune he hadn't heard in years. His heart stopped for a moment. Maya continued to play, unaware of his shock. The melody rose and fell like waves of emotion. The crowd listened, frozen, and as she reached the final note, a tear rolled down Mr. Howard's cheek. He finally realized this little girl's heart carried something that no amount of training could ever teach. Something real. The sound of Maya's last note hung in the air, soft but powerful. The entire hall was silent. No one moved. No one even breathed. For a long moment, everyone simply stared at the little girl sitting at the grand piano, the same girl they had laughed at 2 nights ago. Maya slowly opened her eyes. She looked around the room, confused by the silence. Her hands were still resting on the piano keys. She could feel her heart racing inside her chest. Then a single clap broke the quiet. It was Mr. Howard. Everyone turned to look at him. The proud, cold man who never praised anyone and was clapping. Slowly, quietly. He looked at her, his eyes softer now. How did you learn to play like that? He asked. Maya blinked. My mother taught me before she passed away. What was her name? Clara Evans, she said. The name hit him like thunder. Mr. Howard stepped back, his face pale. Clara Evans. Your mother was Clara Evans? Yes, sir, Maya replied softly. Do you know her? He stared at her, speechless. The crowd began whispering. Then Peter, Maya's uncle, stepped forward. She was my sister, he said firmly. You knew her, didn't you, Mr. Howard? Mr. Howard's hands shook slightly. I did. She was my student, one of my best. I taught her everything I knew. She was talented, far more talented than I ever was. Maya looked at him with wide eyes. You taught my mom? He nodded slowly. Yes, many years ago. But she left suddenly. She said she had found something more important than fame. Peter spoke softly. She left to take care of her daughter, Maya. Mr. Howard looked at Maya again, and this time his eyes filled with tears. You play just like her. The same touch. The same emotion. I can feel her music in your hands. The guests in the hall began to murmur, realizing what they were witnessing. The same people who once laughed now stood silent, humbled. Maya lowered her head. She told me music comes from the heart, not the hands, she said quietly. Mr. Howard smiled faintly. Yes, that was her favorite line. He stepped closer to Maya and placed a hand on her shoulder. Child, you have something rare. Something no school, no teacher, no money can give. You have the gift of true music. Tears filled Maya's eyes. Thank you, sir. Peter looked proud. The crowd began to clap, slowly at first, then louder and louder. The sound filled the hall, echoing against the golden walls. For the first time, Maya smiled with her whole heart, but as the clapping grew, Mr. Howard raised his hand to silence them. Wait, he said. This child doesn't need our pity or applause. She needs a chance. He turned toward Peter. Where has she been living? On the streets, Peter replied softly. Since Clara passed away, she's had no one. Mr. Howard looked at Maya again. That ends tonight. Maya looked confused. Sir, you will not live on the streets anymore, he said firmly. You have a gift that the world must hear. I will teach you. I will help you, the crowd gasped. Someone whispered, Mr. Howard never teaches anyone anymore. He ignored them and smiled warmly. Would you like that, Maya? Her eyes filled with tears again. Yes, sir. I want to learn. Good, he said gently. But remember one thing, and I'm not teaching you to be famous. I am teaching you to be real. To make people feel what you feel when you play? Maya nodded. I understand, the crowd clapped again louder than before. People took photos, some even cried. The moment felt magical, the poor, homeless girl being recognized as a true musician. Later that night, after everyone left, Mr. Howard stood by the piano while Maya played one last tune before going home with her uncle. Her small fingers moved over the keys softly. The melody filled the empty hall like a warm light. Mr. Howard closed his eyes, and for the first time in years he felt peace. He whispered to himself, Clara, your daughter will finish what you started. Outside, Peter waited near the door. When Maya finished, he smiled proudly. You are amazing, Maya. I think Mom would be smiling right now. Maya smiled back, holding his hand. I hope she heard me. Peter nodded. Oh, she did. Music travels farther than we think. As they stepped out into the cool night, Maya looked up at the stars. For the first time, she didn't feel hungry or alone. She had found her voice, her purpose, and maybe even a new family. But deep inside, she also knew this was just the beginning, because the world would soon hear her music and then everything would change. Days turned into weeks, and life began to change for Maya. She no longer slept on the cold streets. Her uncle Peter had taken her home, a small but warm apartment filled with love. Every morning she practiced the piano for hours, sometimes smiling, sometimes crying, but always putting her heart into the music. Mr. Howard visited her often. He kept his promise. He taught her not only about piano but also about life. Music is not just sound, he said one morning. It's a story, your story. Every note should say something. Maya nodded, her fingers dancing over the keys. I understand, sir. He smiled proudly. Good, then let's begin again. As the days passed, Maya's name slowly began to spread. People who had seen her play on the street told others about the homeless piano girl. A few newspapers wrote short articles about her talent, but Maya didn't care about fame. She only cared about learning and remembering her mother through every melody. One afternoon as she practiced, Peter walked in holding an old box. Maya, he said, I found this in one of Mom's old trunks. It's yours. She opened it carefully. Inside were some old letters, a small notebook, and a photo, her mother standing next to Mr. Howard many years ago. Maya looked up in surprise. She really was his student. Peter nodded. Yes, and she loved him like a mentor. Maya opened the notebook. It was filled with music notes, unfinished songs, little pieces of melodies. But on the last page, something caught her eye. It said, For my daughter, when you find your music, you will find the truth. Maya whispered the words softly. Find the truth? Peter frowned. What truth? Before they could think more, a knock came at the door. It was Mr. Howard. Good afternoon, he said kindly. Ready for practice? Maya smiled. Always. But her eyes were still on the notebook, Mr. Howard noticed. What's that? My mother's music book, Maya said. She wrote songs here, but some pages are missing. He stepped closer, his face suddenly serious. He took the notebook gently, turning the pages. When he reached the last one, he stopped. His hands began to shake slightly, Peter noticed. What's wrong? Mr. Howard's eyes looked distant, almost haunted. I know this melody, he whispered. Clara started it in my class, but she never finished it. I asked her why, and she said, It wasn't time yet. He looked at Maya. Do you know how it sounds? Maya nodded. I think so. I've heard it in my dreams. Play it, he said softly. Maya sat at the piano, opened the notebook, and placed her fingers on the keys. Slowly, she began to play. The melody was gentle and beautiful, but something about it made Mr. Howard's eyes fill with tears. When she reached the middle, she stopped. The rest is missing, she said. Mr. Howard took a deep breath. No, he whispered. The rest? I know it. He sat beside her and played the next part. Their music joined together, his trained skill and her natural emotion blending perfectly. The sound filled the room like magic. When they finished, Maya looked up. You knew this song all along? Mr. Howard nodded slowly. Yes, I wrote the first half of it. With your mother. Peter looked shocked. You and Clara wrote it together? Yes, Mr. Howard said quietly. But she left before we could finish. She said she wanted to give the final notes to someone who would understand them one day. Now I know who she meant. Maya's eyes widened. Me? He nodded. Yes, Maya. You were always meant to finish this song. Tears filled her eyes. She left me her music. She left you her heart, Mr. Howard said softly. This melody is more than a song, it's a message. Peter looked confused. A message? Mr. Howard stood and walked to the window. When your mother left my school, she said something I never understood. She said one day music will bring us all back together. I think she knew you would come and that your music would find me again. Maya felt a chill down her spine. She knew I would play her song. Mr. Howard turned back and smiled sadly. Your mother was a genius, Maya. She saw the world differently. And now I see that you've inherited that gift. Peter placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. Then we should finish what she started. Maya nodded, wiping her tears. Yes, for her. The three of them sat around the piano as the sun began to set. Together they worked on the final part of Clara's song, the missing piece that had waited for years. When Maya played the last note, the room fell silent. It was perfect, emotional, full of love, pain, and hope. Peter whispered, "It feels like she's here with us." Mr. Howard smiled softly. She is. Maya looked up at the sky through the window where the evening stars had begun to appear. Thank you, Mama, she whispered. I found the truth. That night Maya could not sleep. The melody she and Mr. Howard had finished kept echoing in her mind. Soft, beautiful, but also full of sadness. Each note felt like her mother's voice whispering to her. She sat by the window looking at the city lights outside. Why did you hide this from me, Mama? She whispered. What truth were you trying to protect? The next morning she woke up early. Peter and Mr. Howard were already in the living room talking quietly. When Maya entered, they stopped. What's going on? She asked. Peter looked unsure, then said, Mr. Howard wants to show us something. Mr. Howard nodded and placed an old envelope on the table. It was yellowed with time with a name written on it, Clara. I kept this for many years, he said softly. Your mother gave it to me before she left my academy. She said, one day when you meet my daughter, give her this. I didn't know it would take so long. Maya's heart started beating fast. You mean this letter is for me? He nodded. Yes, Maya. She wanted you to have it when the time was right. Maya's hands trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter and a small faded photograph. It showed her mother standing on a stage holding a trophy with a man beside her, Mr. Howard's younger self. She started reading the letter aloud. My dearest Maya, if you are reading this, it means you have found your way back to the piano, back to me. I left not because I wanted to, but because I had to. The people I trusted tried to take my music and my name. They wanted to use my talent, not my heart. When I refused, they turned against me. I hid you to keep you safe, far from their reach. But I always believed that music would lead you home someday. Never forget, my little girl, music is not about fame or power. It is about truth. And the truth is, you were born to finish what I started. Tears ran down Maya's face as she read. She was protecting me. Mr. Howard sighed deeply. Your mother was one of the best pianists I ever taught. But fame brought dark people into her life, greedy producers, jealous musicians. She refused to sell her art and they destroyed her career. One night she disappeared without a word. I searched for her, but I never found her again. Peter clenched his fists. So she wasn't weak, she was brave. Yes, Mr. Howard said softly. She gave up everything to protect her music. And you? Maya wiped her tears. But why didn't she tell me? Why didn't she come back? Mr. Howard's voice cracked. Because she was sick, Maya. The stress, the hunger, the pain, it took her health. I think she knew her time was short. Maya's heart broke. She died alone. Peter hugged her tightly. No, Maya, she didn't die alone. She had her dream with her. And now that dream lives in you. Mr. Howard walked to the piano and touched the keys gently. Your mother believed that one day the world would hear her song. Maybe now, through you, that dream can come true. Maya looked at the piano, the same instrument that once gave her food, now giving her purpose. I'll do it, she said firmly. I'll play her song for the world. Not for fame, not for money, but for her. Mr. Howard smiled through his tears. She would be proud of you. Peter nodded. We'll help you, Maya. We'll make sure her story is told. The next day, they went to Mr. Howard's old academy, the same place where Clara had once played. The stage looked grand but lonely, covered in dust. As Maya walked up, she could almost feel her mother's presence beside her. She placed the music notebook on the piano and took a deep breath. "This is for you, Mama," she whispered. She began to play, soft at first, then stronger, her fingers moving with passion and grace. The sound filled the empty hall, rich with emotion. Mr. Howard and Peter stood silently, tears in their eyes. It was as if time had stopped. When she finished, a ray of sunlight fell across the piano, making it shine. Maya smiled softly. "She's with us," she said. Mr. Howard nodded. "Yes, Maya, and through your music she always will be." As they left the stage, Maya looked back one last time. The truth had finally set her free, not just from her pain but from her past. She had found what her mother wanted her to find, the truth within the music.